All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Lily, and I will be your moderator for today's session, Agentic AI 101, Making AI Practical for Your Business. Before we dive into the presentation, I'd like to quickly cover a few housekeeping details. First, you may have noticed that you're currently on mute, but don't worry. You can still interact with us by submitting any questions using the Q&A located on the Teams webinar panel at the top of your screen. If we happen to run out of time, we will make sure to send a follow-up email with your questions answered. If you happen to run into any technical issues during the session, feel free to use that same question box and we'll assist you as soon as possible. We will try our best to address all your questions during the presentation, but if we run out of time, don't worry, our team will follow up with you via email, or you can connect with your Velosio account manager for further details. All right, let's get started. I'm excited to introduce David Buggy and Paul Burnett. Thanks for joining us, David and Paul. I'll let you take it away from here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lily, and welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. We've got a great topic lined up. It is Agentic AI 101, so you're not going to leave here building or learning enough in this session to go build AI agents, and wouldn't recommend that anyway. Honestly, there's a how to get started section of the presentation that talks about building the business case and a data strategy and some other very important parts of AI, especially with Agentic AI. But it is a 101 session, so it's an introduction to Agentic AI, and we've although got some great topics lined up for you. I am, as I said, Dave Buggy. I'm the VP here of the customer engagement and power platform areas of Velosio, and customer engagement synonymous with CRM. So my team, is the one that you work with on CRM projects, marketing, sales, customer service, field service, project ops, and then anything power platform, which Copilot Studio is a part of. And I've got about 25 years experience running teams that help clients achieve success with the Microsoft platform. And then the real brains of the operation today is Paul Burnett. Paul is a senior consultant in my practice, and he is on the Power Platform team, otherwise known as DPS internally, acronym. And he specializes in the Microsoft Power Platform, which would be Power Automate, Power BI, Power Apps, Copilot, and related technologies. So thanks, Paul, for joining. And Paul is going to be the one doing the demos for us, which I'm sure is a big reason why a lot of you are here, is to see Agentic AI in action. All right, so talk about just a brief view of our agenda is that I think it's important to look back before we look forward, right? So I want to cover the evolution of AI, some key kind of periods of which AI leading up to Agentic AI, right? We'll kind of talk about the evolution in general. What is Agentic AI? So we're going to do a good definition of that. We're going to go over the business case for AI. We're going to then pivot over to Paul and let him show us some live demonstrations of real AI agents. And we're going to cover how to get started. And then if we have time, we'll talk about a bit of success stories, real world results, and then wrap up and Q&A. All right. So like I said, I feel like it's a good to look back before we look forward on something like AI. So let's start with covering kind of the evolution of AI. AI actually goes all the way back to 1950s, and kind of one of the first early concepts of AI was when Alan Turing began work on what he called his Turing test, which is the research that explored the idea of creating machines that had intelligence. And this was what was covered in the movie Imitation Game. So if you haven't seen that movie, it's a really good movie, highly recommend it. But again, it goes all the way back to 1950 is where AI was kind of start point, if you will. And then, we went through evolutions. One of them was rules-based AI, which began in the mid 20th century, actually. And that was by creating machines that could mimic human reasoning, mainly using if-then logic. And that was in that area was called expert systems, if you go back and look at some information around AI evolution. Machine learning, was an important step in the whole AI evolution. That was really invented by IBM in the 1950s, when I believe it was Arthur Samuel invented a computer program that calculated the winning chance in checkers for each side. Okay. Then everybody likely remembers IBM's Deep Blue, which was considered AI because it really demonstrated a machine that was performing tasks that really required intelligence. Then kind of fast forward to current, AI times. ChatGPT debuted in 2022. And that's when, kind of the masses really started paying attention to AI. And that began with conversational AI and progressed into generative AI. And don't worry, we're going to talk through each of those so we have a full understanding. And now is the era of agentic AI, right? And we're going to define that and, of course, talk through agentic AI all the way up to some live demos. So talk about AI adoption. If you look back maybe 2 years ago, I like to call it the AI train. And that was where everybody was watching AI, right? The release of ChatGPT, as I said, really kind of stimulated the masses to start really paying attention and even starting to use AI. That was pivotal, right? That release of ChatGPT really lit a fire under AI in terms of the masses, right? But if you look 2 years ago, most were looking at AI, trying to figure out a strategy, and fewer than 4% of U.S. businesses in a large survey reported that they were using AI in production. Okay, remember 2023, which is only 2 years ago. These were the early adopters. So picture is, hey, everybody's kind of looking at this train, trying to figure it out, trying to determine when to get on, right? And you have a few that were early adopters. Then, with the release of ChatGPT, we had the conversational and generative AI boom, which then in 2024, 1 year later, went from 4% adoption to around 65% of those same companies that were surveyed were regularly using AI. At that point, it was conversational and generative AI. And half of those companies using AI have now implemented it in multiple functions in their company, like marketing, sales, R&D, operations, HR, IT, et cetera. So I don't know that there's, and it'd be interesting to go back and see what the adoption of the internet was. It's probably the closest in terms of technology to being adopted so quickly within 1 year. So let's talk about the AI that most are familiar with. And that starts with the conversational AI. And this is modern times, right? Not going all the way back, to prior periods. But most are familiar with conversational AI, which is really the AI tools that you're likely, most of you use today, Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT. And it really facilitates human-like interactions through dialogue, natural language, processing is a key component of conversational AI. And, it uses NLP to understand and respond to users in, natural language. Examples of that would be, let's say, chatbots in customer support, voice assistants, even Siri and Alexa are considered AI, right? You interact with them in natural language and they provide you back results or perform a task. And then interactive virtual agents are also an example of conversational AI. Then we have generative AI, which basically is AI that creates new content. Okay, so it uses deep learning models, large language models to learn from very vast data sets and then create new content like images, text, computer code. A lot of code today is being generated with AI and other types of content that it's able to generate. Examples of that are creating blog posts, writing code, as I said, generating artwork, or even designing new product concepts are some ideas of how generative AI is being used. So Microsoft Copilot, the Microsoft Copilot chat is both conversational and generative, right? So you can go interact with Copilot. I live in it all day long. Did a lot of research for this presentation through Copilot. So Copilot chat is both conversational and generative, right? So you can go interact with Copilot, ask it questions, and it will provide you back results, or you could ask it to create things. You can ask it today to create PowerPoints, Word documents, images, blog posts, a lot of different generative AI components that it can generate for you today. So what's agentic AI? So agentic AI really refers to AI systems that have a level of agency, meaning that they can operate on behalf of a user to achieve specific goals autonomously, right? So in simpler terms, agentic AI isn't limited to predefined responses. It can actually plan actions, make decisions, and even adapt as it works. And it also learns as it works. So, for example, if a normal chatbot is like an assistant and it waits for your instructions, agentic AI is like a team member that you've trained on an objective, and it can go figure out the steps to get it done within the boundaries that you set. There's a lot of talk around the boundaries, right? The guardrails around AI that's really important to set, right? Is the proper boundaries around AI, particularly around agentic AI. So agentic AI is a big shift from conversational and generative AI. Agentic AI can handle much more complex scenarios. It can learn from new data, even do creative problem solving, right? It's adaptive. For example, if something unexpected happens, the agent can actually adjust its approach. So to give a quick analogy, a traditional automated system is kind of like an assembly line machine, right? Where it's great at doing predefined tasks over and over. Agentic AI is more like a skilled employee that you've trained on the goal, and it might go and find a new way to reach the outcome, overcome obstacles, learn as it goes, and this capability to reason and act proactively is what makes agentic AI so transformative. Okay? So there are about 5 levels. I mean, different people have different opinions, but there are traditionally 5 levels of agentic AI. And what differentiates the levels is the amount of a human being involved. And that's called a human in the loop. Okay. So you have very basic, down towards the level 1, where a human is involved. You start going towards the middle tier where you're removing the human involvement, right? And then all the way up to full autonomy, which would be around level 5. Okay. And you're going to see this actually in Paul's demo. So he has 2 demos that will show you a human in the loop, but the ability for the agents that after time, right, and after you train it, that you can actually have it become fully autonomous and perform actions. So before we dive into agentic AI too deeply, I want to take a look at a few technologies that I think can often get confused along the way. And we'll also take a look at the corresponding tools in the Microsoft platform that correspond to each. So automation, we've all been there and done that, I'm sure. And it's basically just using technology to perform tasks and helping reduce human intervention, right? So in a quick example of that is, let's say in Dynamics 365 sales that you want to send out a win wire whenever an opportunity is closed as won, and you want to send that to the leadership team. So Power Automate would be a great example of that. That would be a super simple workflow to go create and to have running, proper testing, let's say an hour, right? Then you have RPA, or robotic process automation, and that's really robots that mimic human actions to execute tasks in a user interface, right? Inside of a software product that follows predefined rules. So an example of that is to use Microsoft Power Automate has RPA tools where you can have it go record user activity in a software application, look for the repetitive tasks that are being performed by one or many users, and then use that technology to go and automate those tasks. So again, it's done typically within the UI of a software application is where you're performing that automation. Then we get to AI and agentic AI, and very different from the first 2. So RPA, for example, you're not going to get conversational interaction with an RPA. You're not going to have an RPA necessarily go create content, although I guess it could be argued that through Power Automate, you could have it create things like emails and that, but not like conversational and generative AI, right? So AI is really different than the first 2 examples here. And AI agents are designed with specific objectives and figure out the steps to go achieve those objectives. So they adapt and they solve unstructured problems, and it's called React. So it's reason and act. And the main tool in the Microsoft platform for AI agents is Microsoft Copilot, Copilot Studio, and there's a couple other, they're more low code oriented. We'll get to a slide where we talk about the other tools in the Microsoft stack that you can leverage to build AI agents. All right, so look at the evolution of agents. This is where it gets a little confusing. And I've actually had people ask, well, what is an agent? Is it something that goes and does something completely automatically? Is it something you trigger or you tell it to go start something? The answer is it's kind of both. There are agents that can be more simple all the way up to fully autonomous agents, right? So for example, when you create your AI agents, you're designing them with specific instructions, right? And things that you want them to go off and do. And an example around a simple AI agent, which would be on the retrieval level, the more simple level, is an agent that uses a data source, right? And Paul's going to show an excellent example of this in action. But it's where AI agent is built using a data source to answer specific questions or provide information. And when I say specific questions, you don't have to go in and tell it, line by line, this is a question that you could answer. This is a question you can answer. You can actually point it to the data source and, ask it virtually any question that it can answer by consuming that data source. So you don't have to prescribe these questions. You can, right? You can put boundaries and guardrails in, but you don't have to either. Okay. So Paul's going to show a demo of this with an HR benefits agent that I thought was really, really interesting and well put together. So task agents process information and take autonomous actions. Okay. So an example of that would be a customer service chatbot. Okay. Let's say you need a chatbot that accepts customer inquiries, maybe from your website, provides information back, helps troubleshoot issues, and escalate more complex problems to an actual human. So that would be an example of a task-based AI agent. And then you get to the fully autonomous level, again, level 1 through 5, right, in the autonomous area, right, with simple all the way up to fully autonomous. But autonomous agents can operate independently or with a human in the mix, as we talked about, right? So they can do dynamic planning, learning from the process as it goes. And these autonomous agents can actually adapt to changing conditions and make decisions without constant human intervention. If you've heard of a company called Waymo, self-driving Uber, if you will, they've been growing into different cities. I think they just came here in the Northeast into the Philadelphia metropolitan, and I'm dying to go check one out. That's a great example of a fully autonomous agent, right? Where it's literally driving you and reacting and adapting in real time to its environment. Somebody walks in front of the car, light turns red from green. That's a really good example, of course, of a very, very advanced agent, an autonomous agent. Other examples of autonomous agents would be the sales order and purchase agents that are available for Microsoft Business Central, which is part of what Paul is going to show. Let's talk about the business case for agentic AI. And then after Paul's section to do some demos, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how to get started. There's some really important pieces of information there, and some examples, planning charts and so forth that I think would be really valuable as you go off and start thinking about, how do you define the business case for what you may want to do with AI. So a number of key items to a business case for, let's say, an AI agent, right? So one is, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? AI agents can tackle a lot of different types of challenges, everything from manual data entry, handling repetitive inquiries, monitoring systems, so you don't have to constantly go and look, right? It's going to tell you when there's an anomaly. And all this is designed to free employees from tedious tasks. So you want to look at productivity and efficiency. What would building, let's say, an AI agent mean to your organization in terms of productivity and efficiency? Organizations that have been using AI have seen pretty measurable results there. On average, about a 14% increase in productivity and around a 50% faster customer response time. So think about, maybe your model today is that you have customers call into your call center to get information about an invoice or an order, things like that. Automating that using AI would be a substantial improvement in response time, right? Because AI runs 24/7. It doesn't take vacations. It doesn't complain. You get the idea. So it can drastically reduce turnaround times and customer response times. Scalable. Call center, is it scalable? Sure. What does that mean? It means, as you grow, you go and hire, onboard, train, and continually, go through that cycle as you grow something like a call center. So an AI agent can scale to handle unlimited volume without a proportional increase in any headcount. Now, I guess it could be argued that you certainly have people that are building and maintaining AI agents, right? So, as you grow, I think the headcount could continue to grow there, but not proportionally, right, to a traditional something like a call center. You can also operate AI agents across multiple functions: sales, service, operations, all in parallel. Definitely want to look at the ROI potential. Again, we'll cover that and how to get started. But by automating high volume tasks, you reduce errors. Agentic AI can deliver a very significant ROI. And there's lots of great information out there on some early adopters around Agentic AI and some pretty substantial cost savings. There's one for UPS that's pretty amazing. I believe there's one from Amazon and a couple others that kind of pop up in the search engines looking at ROI around Agentic AI. And then, going beyond RPA, which is, again, a rule-based technology, Agentic AI just opens up an immense amount of possibilities because you don't have to necessarily define everything that it needs to go and do, right? You can give it end result goals, and it can go and it can learn and adapt and figure out how to get to those end result goals. And you're feeding it, tasks that are much more complex than something like RPA could handle. So Gartner predicts, is it interesting, and this has been on the news I've seen over the last couple of weeks, that by 2028, Agentic AI will make 15% of all daily work decisions. Think about that. So Agentic AI was really launched, or I wouldn't say invented, but kind of launched and got a lot of focus in 2024. And in 4 years, this technology will be able to make around 15% of daily work decisions. So a couple of things I thought I'd share more for a takeaway item, right? You'll get a copy of the link to this session, so you'll be able to get copies of this content. But here's a swim lane chart by function and showing the key areas to consider for AI enablement. So we'll go over just a couple examples here. So around sales is to automate and enhance a sales cycle. So a few examples around that we've actually seen and worked on for clients. One is around lead generation, right? So define your ideal client profile or your ICP, and then use AI to go identify key prospects in large databases and maybe even add them right to your Dynamics 365 sales system so we can start marketing to them. All right. Account management. Another example is using AI to identify clients that might be at risk of churn, right? Also in sales, improving win rates by using AI to better forecast opportunities that are most likely to close. So that helps you not only identify them, but prioritize them, right? Sales is all about available time. So prioritizing them would be super helpful to give sales guidance on what opportunities specifically to work on. Marketing, leveraging AI for predictive analytics, lead scoring, predicting, the types of campaigns to go run based on past results. And using AI for very hyper personalized content creation is another good use of AI in marketing. And then in customer service, AI agents for self-help is something that's being widely adopted. An agent that can accept customer inquiries or issues, right? Help diagnose the issue, respond to the customer, and all that's around reducing case volume, improving customer satisfaction, and not having to grow headcount tremendously as that area of business grows. Also, around continuous improvement is another great area to look at AI for. Maybe examples might be workflows that provide good feedback loops around different things. Next chart here is a swim lane chart shown by key processes and by KPI across major business functions, and the ones with the diamond are prioritized KPIs that Microsoft has put together through interaction with clients, through surveys with clients, and so forth. So I thought I'd talk through a couple examples that we're seeing here at Velosio and where we're helping clients. HR, for example. So as I said, Paul's going to walk through a really cool HR agent demo here in a couple minutes. But other areas might be accelerating employee onboarding time is a great use case to look at for AI. Reduce admin cost per employee. So things like an HR agent that answers questions about benefits or policies and procedures, things like that, to avoid the phone call or email that might otherwise, go to HR. Using AI to monitor employee retention. That's a really good use case. Looking at hiring cost, looking at workplace demographics, right? Those things are shifting all the time around demographics and hiring and retention. So using AI around monitoring those is some good use cases. And then also, as I said, using AI to just improve issue resolution time around HR. IT, using AI to reduce IT operational costs. So ticketing agents, can help with resolving user inquiries or problems, responding to them faster, avoiding, escalation to a human, which all helps, with internal CSAT, and a few other areas around IT that are interesting, especially around the security side. So Microsoft's even got some agents in Office 365 or Microsoft 365 now related to security. Okay, so these would be good takeaways, some ideas, swim lanes that you can kind of look down through and see what might be most applicable to your organization. So I said, Paul, that I'd be 30 minutes. I'm 28 minutes and 34 seconds. I don't know how that ended up, but somehow it did. So now it's time to turn it over to you. And this is likely what most came to see in this webinar, some real world demonstrations of agentic AI in action. So Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you. I will stop sharing and let you start your screen share.
All righty. There we go. Hello, everybody. So yeah, and thank you very much for the introduction, and hopefully I can give a nice demonstration here for you. So we talked about in that slide on the evolution of AI agents. We have just kind of a scaling from simple to complex, and so we have an example here of some simple ones. We have some examples of a task one that then can get we can kind of take the guardrails, the restrictions off of it to make it more autonomous. And so in this example, I have Copilot Studio here, and so this will be more of we just built a real simple one, and one of them is our HR demo. And so there's an agent here, and we deployed that agent actually to a chat. So I can add in my Teams chat. And so we moved over here to Teams, and I have an agent. I deployed this to the Teams chat. And the back end of this agent is tied to a SharePoint site. So we talked about it has a knowledge set. So here's our HR website. I loaded our Velosio handbook and our Velosio benefits guide, and I just basically saved it. So I loaded it on there, and now it can query those two PDFs. And so just to kind of do a little peek behind the scene kind of thing, but we have our Velosio handbook. And so what can this do then? So this is more of that retrieval process. In this case, I'm going to say, what is our short-term disability process? As you can see, I did some prior chats. What is our long-term? And I just copy paste so you don't have to see me type. So what it's doing, that triggered the Copilot agent. It went in, scanned it, said, okay, yep, here's our benefits. It also gave me a site. This does not go out to the web. It is restricted to only what is in that website, in that SharePoint site. And I can then see exactly where it's sourced and what came from that. For example, then we have, so that was from our benefits guide. And then this is from, I think actually this would be from the who provides our pet insurance. And one of the perks of Velosio is we have a pet insurance, and it's from Nationwide. So it went in, it read that PDF, and it gave me the source then to go get back and get that.
I think it's important to point out there, Paul, is that could the employees go and open these PDFs and find that information? Sure. Would they?
Yes.
That's another question, right? A lot of times they might not, and they will just send an email to HR, which HR, has the choice of then pointing them back to the document or answering the question. But short story is that you've taken and put technology over top of that. So instead of having to go through what is probably over 100 pages of content, right, to find certain information, you've used an AI agent over top of that information. And really, you could probably ask it most anything that's in that document, and it's going to be able to answer that question, right, Paul?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And so we've eliminated that.
Sorry, go ahead.
And we've eliminated that communication. We've eliminated that
Right.
that internal human communication, where me asking HR, and the HR has to look it up, and then they have to attach the document. It's already there. I have the document at my fingertips and a summary of what the question that I had.
And you didn't program it with specific questions and answers. You allowed it to digest the data set. And now using natural language, you can ask virtually any question that it, could likely answer based on the information that's in those documents.
Exactly. Yep. So all I did is I hooked it up to the source, and provided it some instructions like, go look into this area and give me back give me back a summary of my question.
Sure.
And that was it. I didn't put any formatting to it. There was no additional instructions given for that.
Right. Awesome.
So then in our other example here, I have something. Well, we have another agent, and this agent is hooked up to a Power Automate. So this is our financial insights agent, and this will trigger a Power Automate. And so this is example. This is a very simple Power Automate. It's when the agent calls it, it goes into Business Central, it pulls the balance sheet, it pulls the income statement, and it responds back to the agent. I didn't give it any other information, any other instructions besides just go grab that information. And back, so then in our agent here, so this is kind of the back end, how you build it, but we can test that here. And so I could say, now it is using my credentials. So when I trigger this, it is going to use my credentials to trigger the Power Automate. If I don't have access to Business Central, it's going to come back and say, nope, you don't have access. If I do have access to Business Central, but maybe you don't have permissions for that area, then same thing. It has some protections around that, and also just be basically just sharing that I can exclusively share this Copilot agent to whoever I want. So it doesn't have to be it's not open to the public or open to the company. In this case, I can see here I tested how much cash do I have. We have 92,000 in cash, and that pulled it right from Business Central. If you were to post something and make a change that impacted that cash, if I queried it again, it would give me that information, live updated. As an example here, we'll go another one. So give me the last month's financial statement. So same thing, we're eliminating this query to accounting, pulling up a report. I have my report right here. So it went through, said, give me my financial statement. So here is here's the latest information available to me at my fingertips. I don't have to involve that human person to go get that information. And so that's an example there. There's two kind of examples of that retrieval process, and in this case, they're both a chat interface. It's a natural language model, but I did not give it any formatting. It built this format based on the data that it pulled from Business Central. And one of the things that we can also, just to show, is we can deploy it. So here are just the out of the box connectors, and there's with the Power Automate, you can basically then connect to anything. That's the bridge, if you would, the bridge between Copilot and whatever site or whatever endpoint. But you can, in this example, maybe there's that customer Q&A. So on your website, you've exposed this agent, and on the back end, it's a knowledge base of questions and answers, or just a SharePoint site of information. And so that gives that the information access to their fingertips, but we can control it. We can say only this data and not the World Wide Web or other things. All right, now let's move on to the next ones. And I think this is what we were kind of wanting to see. Let me just close this. So in Business Central, there are two new agents, and they are still in preview. They are available on all tenants, but they are being worked on. So there's a roadmap for each of them, and they are going to be improved upon by Microsoft as time moves forward. But the latest version of Business Central has two agents. There's a sales order agent and a payables agent, and we're going to show what that is. And so let's go into our sales order agent, and I'm just going to show what the setup looks like. So it hooks up to a monitored mailbox, and so in this case, I have a shared mailbox called Sales Orders, and that's this guy right here in our tab, and here's our settings. So we have some settings out of the box, and I'm basically saying review incoming, include capable to promise, meaning I don't have it in stock, but I will, as well as in reviewing quotes, and making orders from quotes. And in this configuration, there's a lot more human involvement. There's the humans in the mix. They're checking it. There's actions for humans to review and approve and continue with. As you get more comfortable, you go, this thing's running, we can start to remove the review. And so then now we're moving more to that autonomous process. It's kicking quotes out, and you don't even know. I mean, it's showing up in the list, but it's just running and it's doing its thing. But in this example, we can control it a lot tighter, review it, make sure it looks good, and we'll show that example. So this is my customer, my potential customer. It's Alan, and he's just emailing and saying, I want 10 black chairs and a whiteboard. And so we'll go ahead and hit send. So that's all I'm giving it. I'm just saying, I want 10, send me a quote. I want 10 black chairs. There we go. It will arrive into our sales order mailbox. And at this point, if we come back into BC, we should see an action item come in. And it might just take it a second or two. It's not instant, but it is pretty real time. Now I'll just hit refresh here.
And I like how it comes up with the alert, when you have this human in the loop, and there's your alert, speaking of.
Mm-hmm. And so there's my alert. I'm tasked with monitoring this queue, and so here we can see an email came in from Alan. We can go ahead and review it. So here's my email. It gives you the summary of the email that came in, and notice that our contact couldn't find this email. So we'll click on our contact, it kind of read that email, and so it's giving us some information here. And now we've created our contact. We have a new contact in Business Central. I could fill out additional information if I wanted to and grab that additional information, but really at this point, we're looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm. We got Alan, and so it's now moving on to the next part of that process. And while we're letting it do its thing, because what it's currently doing now is it's looking at our items. So let's go look at those items. So I asked for 10 black chairs and a whiteboard. And in this case, we have a black chair here. I think that's the Paris chair. If we have the Mexico swivel chair, and if we scroll down, we have the whiteboard. So it's just some sample data that Microsoft provides. And so it's currently checking that information. It's also because so let's go back to that setting. We are allowing it to look at capable to promise. So we could just say only available, or we could say, well, it's not available now. It's on purchase order. It's in production. It's in an assembly order. And now we have our next task. So same thing, monitoring our queue. I can come in, we can see what's going on. Let's go review it. And here's the email that it typed out. So it's, dear Alan, we have our two chairs. It found the Paris guest chair, which is available. We found the Mexico swivel chair, which is not currently available, but will be by a date. And that would be the purchase receiving expected date. And then we can see here that we have the whiteboard, but it is not available till August 2nd. And the dates being sample data are a little off. They're not quite to today's dates. But there should be a purchase order for whiteboards that would be coming in on August 2nd. And everything looks good. Yeah, I can make any changes that I want. This is that human in the loop. And so now I'll go ahead and hit confirm. So if we come back to our mailbox, and if I look at our sent mailbox, and I'm just waiting for the ping to hear on my headset. Let's go here to our inbox. There it is. So our sent need a quote, and we should see that. So there was our sent. So there's our sent. The sample data, because this is a tenant, a demo tenant, the spam filters don't like it. So we got a delivery fail, but just give me 2 seconds and we can.
So to kind of recap while Paul's straightening that out, this is the sales order agent. Now, this is an agent that Microsoft built that's available for Dynamics 365 Business Central, Microsoft's accounting product for small and mid-size market. And they pre-built this agent and released it, and there's some configuration that you can do with that agent. This is just an example. Those of you that have Business Central, you can actually go and turn this on, set it up, and start, testing it, and maybe then, putting it into production with a human in the loop, right? And the scenario is that in higher more transactionally oriented companies where you're doing a lot of things like quotes, this could be a game changer, because other than maybe workflows and a few things here and there, I can't think of another way that you could really scale an automated process around that, unless you let people come in maybe and configure their own quote, right? So what Paul showed was a customer sending an unstructured email. Hey, I'd like a couple black chairs and a whiteboard. That coming into a mailbox that Business Central was monitoring. It was able to ingest that email, understand it, right? And then take action on it, which was to create a quote and send that back via email in a nicely formatted email, all without anybody really doing anything other than clicking an action button to have it go to the next step. Again, this is just one example. Another thing that bears mentioning here is that this is an example of agentic AI. Doesn't have to be specific to any one software product. we're able to lay agentic AI over lots of different types of systems and data sources. So if you don't have Microsoft Business Central, but you love the concept of this agent, we can absolutely help go, do an assessment right around that business case, and actually go and either help you or develop an agent like that for whatever backend system you use. It's really just using it here as a good example.
Yep, exactly that. And so here we have our message. So I resent it, and then it recognized, okay, we have our process that has been captured. And so at this point, then there will be a sales quote that's created. So if we go here to the contact here, we can see our contact. There's our Alan contact that was created, and now it's going to be in the process of creating the sales order. I'm sorry, the sales quote. In a similar sense, we have I have another draft email here, and this includes wrong one, this one here, our draft. This would be like, for example, in Shopify, you have a Shopify website, an e-commerce website, and at the point of checkout, maybe there's an API that we can interact with, and that's a hard kind of connection. But also, typically those type of sites also BCC a internal email, and so this would be like your order confirmation. And if it realizes that, oh, I've got an order confirmation, it doesn't need to do the quote. It would immediately go and create the order itself and send and respond back appropriately. So in that example, we've got this e-commerce site feeding orders, and it's creating orders, creating customers on the fly that we can then relax that permissions on once we feel comfortable. If we're not comfortable, then we can keep that review process going, but later on we can relax that, and it just is processing that.
Paul, we had a question come in a few minutes ago, taking it back just a couple steps. They asked, what if I ask a question of a topic not covered in the policy document? Will you get a hallucination or an admission that the information is not available?
Great question. And so let's go to that Teams, because I actually have one. And so let's launch our Teams back. So in this example, we did in the agent, it has if unknown, respond appropriately. Like if, and I have a real good example of that right now, actually. So in our PTO policy, it did not mention, it could not find information relating to the PTO for paid time off. And so it said, well, maybe you need to now do a human look. So it didn't just make up some number and send back. And that was in one of the responses we said is, if you do not know, then provide documentation, and but do not invent a response.
Now, if Paul, you had, for example, you allowed it to go external, and probably a different topic, right? Not HR information isn't a great example, but maybe a broader topic, and it was using both internal sources and external, that it could go to the internal sources to see if it can solve that question, right? And also then go to external as well, and go look for the information externally. Is that correct?
That is correct. So in that example, and it would prioritize internal information first,
yep,
and then go to external information second. And so in the we can on that source, we can specify we want allow a web search for public information. And currently this one's disabled because it is more HR specific. But yes, yep. Right. Product information, we a really good example there. Tell me the item. Tell me all the product details of this Model 5 something, and it would first search all of our internal information, whether it's BC, Dataverse, SharePoint, OneDrive, all those endpoints are available. And then if it doesn't know, then it's going to look for what the Model 5 keyboard is, from the web, and it will blend that.
Right.
Well, I think that kind of concluded. It looks like we hit one little. Oh, there we go. I'll get this back now. So this is a demo tenant, and so we have there is some restrictions around. It does consume AI credits, but let's now we'll pivot over to the payable side. So on our payable side, we have our purchase invoice. So this is from Carlos, and he's going to send an invoice. And so we have our invoice here. This is a purchase invoice from Worldwide Importers, and this is coming into, and we're going to send it to the purchase invoice email. So we can go ahead and we'll hit send. There we go. It's arrived. If we look at our inbox, there's Carlos. We should see it pick up here now on our approval or our PA agent.
And while we're waiting for that to come in, we've also done projects where maybe you don't get a lot of your invoices by email. I think that's probably fairly common today. But we've actually done some OCR related work that interfaces then with the AI agent to do the same or similar to what's being done here, right? So you scan in an invoice, it OCRs it, so it pulls the text out of the invoice and then feeds that to the AI agent, taking place of the email component here that Paul is showing you. So there's lots of ways you can get data from point A to point B today.
Yep. And so in this case, we had our review. Again, if we more comfortable, we can relax that review, and it just will pull it in. And so it's confirmed. And then now we have our next task, which is going to create the purchase invoice. So if we go over to purchase invoices, we should see that being created here pretty quickly.
And as everybody can see, this is no pre-staged items, right, that are happening here. This is real time. We wanted to show you, real agents working and actually creating records. With that always comes a little Murphy's Law risk in terms of demos, but it looks like it is creating everything we expect it to.
So it found the information. We have found some items, and we'll go ahead and we'll confirm. So it searched, items and resources and fixed assets, and then the GL accounts. And so it's looking to try to match that. And if it can't, then it will give us a prompt and say, oh, we need we need a human to look at this particular one. If I hit refresh again, there it is. Worldwide Importers is coming in. There's our lines. And we also have in our attachment, it saved our attachment of that line. So 39,850. And so 39,850.
Oh.
And this is complete. So the final draft, it created the purchase invoice.
It's great.
Specifically on this roadmap, and I think this will be kind of probably the closing one. This is creating purchase invoices on the roadmap. It is scheduled to start looking at purchase orders. I know that's a good question that comes up quite a bit with this agent. Is can it look at my purchase orders and find the purchase order? Not just yet, but it is on the roadmap for this agent.
Great. Fantastic. Well, they were great demos. Again, agents that you can turn on today. Certainly we can help with that. If you'd like us to help kind of turn those on, configure them properly, set them up right so that you have a human in the loop that, is guiding the AI as it learns, and at some point you could go full autonomously with those agents. But if you need help with that, we can help there. If you need help with building something like that for different systems, we can absolutely help there as well. And that's a good segue into our final topic for today. And looks like we're going to end right on time, which is how to get started, in general with what we're talking about today. And I think this isn't specific to agentic AI necessarily. Could be, very applicable to just AI in general, right? So first, you have to really kind of look at the drivers around AI readiness. These come from Microsoft's AI strategy roadmap white paper, which you can download. And that white paper identifies best practices for organizations to improve each aspect of their AI readiness. And we don't have time to dig into these in this session, but in a minute, we will talk about some valuable workshops that we can offer, very low cost to get you, into an AI roadmap, really kind of regardless of where you're at in AI adoption. Okay, so first is business strategy. Second is, really paying attention to technology and data. Data is the single biggest enabler or inhibitor to AI. It's all about data, right? So having good, clean data and a strategy around data and preparing your data for AI is absolutely critical. We have an entire team at Velosio that specialize in data, so we can absolutely help there. Next one is AI strategy and experience. And then organization and culture. So it's super important in terms of how to communicate AI strategy across your organization. What a lot of people think of immediately today is AI is going to take my job. And that's not really what we're looking to do here. And the messaging should be more about, leveraging this technology to free you up, right, from the things that AI can do for you, to give you back more time to go focus on more strategic priorities. Right. And then the fifth one is governance. So governance is a super important part of an overall AI strategy and readiness. So, let's go back here. So a couple key bullet points on how to go start building a business strategy around AI. It's all about problem definition. What's the problem that we're going to go try and solve? What are the underlying root causes? How does our current process work? Is it a good candidate for AI potentially? What's the opportunity if we solve the problem? What's the business objective? And how you measure success, right, around this initiative? And then accountability. So who's accountable overall for each parts of these processes, and who needs to be aligned and sponsor around processes related to an AI initiative. I added this just as a takeaway to give you an example of a template that I feel is pretty good to use for defining your use case, right? It's a use case template. So here's the problem definition. Here's the use case description. We have our business objective, key result, stakeholders, and then overall strategic fit. Bit about the technology as we start to wrap up. Copilot Studio is the low-code tool in the platform to go build AI agents. Sometimes you need to go beyond that. So at that point, you'd go to what would be considered pro code, and that would be Visual Studio, GitHub, also Azure AI Foundry, and even Microsoft Fabric, all components, of the tools or tools in the toolbox here around developing AI. Find my mouse just disappeared here. There we go. I think maybe not. All right. Seem to be having a technical difficulty on my end. There we go. I think PowerPoint is shutting itself down and restarting. But what I was going to wrap up with there was the workshops that we offer at Velosio to help you at any stage that you're at in the AI journey. So let me just pull that back up. Go to those slides since PowerPoint decided to shut down on me, and we'll pull those up on the screen here. There we go. So we have an entire workshop catalog that you can pick from, or you can define your own engagement with us, right? We don't have to go in order of, our workshop catalog. If you've got, a certain objective and a certain project that you need some help with, just give us a call. We'd love to get on the phone and talk about your project and, our view of it and how we can get involved and add value. But you can see we've got a lot of different workshops here all around AI. Some very basic, right? Starting with introductory level workshops all the way up to building custom AI agents, right? To do something like what we looked at today, maybe something very different than we looked at today. That's obviously your definition. Our recommended AI journey, again, you can jump in here at any point. You don't have to start at level 1 and go all the way through. But the top 3 workshops we offer very affordably, $2,500. You get all 3 workshops, which include an introduction to AI, a journey through Copilot and AI, and then AI strategy and governance. And then from there, we offer more advanced workshops all the way up to role-specific workshops around AI, maybe in dynamics, right? The sales copilot, customer service copilot, et cetera. And like I said, we've got an entire catalog of workshops that we can help, and a very, very low cost starting point for these first 3 workshops. If you have an AI project in mind and you want to go off kind of this script and just talk to us about your project and see what our thoughts are and some of our recommended approaches, absolutely reach out. We would absolutely love to talk to you about that. And maybe you'd even get lucky enough and get Paul on your project. So that's all I had. We didn't have any more questions in the Q&A, so Paul, we must have done a pretty good job. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Hopefully we hear from you and have the opportunity to help you with your AI roadmap. And I want to thank Paul for preparing all the demos and displaying them today. And I want to thank Lily for moderating our event. And thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. And hopefully this session was valuable. Hope everybody has a great day.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Paul and David. I do want to remind everyone before we head out to keep an eye on your inbox for an email from us. It will have the webinar recording as well as a link to sign up to those awesome Copilot workshops that were mentioned.
Great.
But with that, we will sign off. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.